I am returning the papers that were submitted for Summary Response 1, and I wanted to go over generally what expectations there were and what problems I encountered. I have attached this document, SR1 General Review, in Unit 1, and this rubric was available with the original assignment and is also attached to your return paper. I copied and pasted and then made notes and deductions within it. First of all, the requirements for a summary as outlined in the Hacker text are that the first sentence includes the author's name, the title of the text, and a statement of the thesis or the main point. If you look at the rubric, you see that it says first sentence, the second item, first sentence, the author, title with appropriate punctuation. In this case, it would be quotation marks, the thesis or main idea of the paper. Also required is third person. It is an academic assignment. Third person is the appropriate person, that is he or she referring to the author. A person, a third person is the person we talk about, as opposed to first person, the person speaking, certainly not you, which is not acceptable in academic writing. If you look back to the vocabulary, sentence grammar vocabulary, you see that second person is not acceptable in academic writing. Present tense is required. Overall, that was not too much of a problem. Objective. The summary itself is not to include an opinion. The summary is a reporting of the original content. A rule of thumb is, would the author recognize the information that you provided in the summary as what was written in the original? And the next thing is that you should be concise. That is, you should state the main points and eliminate detail. This text could be summarized in about a half a page in MLA formatting, double spaced. Notice that beyond the first sentence were the key points, and I'll talk specifically about those in just a moment. One other additional point was that you were to provide a response, a reader response to the article. Some of you did and some of you did not. The response is your opinion. It is, you can't get it wrong, but if you have a position, you are typically expected to explain why, but the opinion itself is certainly legitimate. After we look at the basic requirements, that in the first sentence you need to have author, title, thesis, or main idea, and then you are to include the key points in the summary. The summary itself is to be written in present tense, third person, and should be objective. And then you have a reader response. I took the liberty of borrowing from student papers. Here are 4 different first sentences that included the information that was required: the author's name, the title of the article, and the main idea. Notice that there is not one way, there's not necessarily one way to state the main idea, but all of these do state the main idea. The fact that there are differences between these two types of friends, and that one of them, and you could also include the idea that one of them is possibly better. Below that, I have listed some of the key points. Having friends is beneficial, whatever the type. Online friends are more diverse and more numerous, but the depth of relationships is limited. For those who are shy, online relationships may be easier. Real-life friends are less diverse, are more likely to share bad habits, but offer more hands-on support. Online friendships have limits, but offer support, condolences, encouragement, and information. Information can be shared easily with online friends, and friendships can be maintained over physical distance and time. And as I noted earlier, a reader response, your opinion, was also required. There may have been some other key points, but these were the primary ones. Some of you focused on particular aspects and gave detail. You do not have to do that. You should be able to summarize an article of this length in about a half a page, and that is in MLA format, double-spaced. The next portion of grading that I want to talk to you about is at the very bottom of the rubric, and it is grammar and mechanics. Generally, if you see the grading rubric that was included with the syllabus, errors in grammar and mechanics count a significant part of a grade because they're particularly important. Major errors, those that are the G errors, count 10 points each. So in an essay, 4 major errors would mean that the paper would not earn more than a D. Minor errors count 5 points each. But for this assignment, I counted a point per error of either kind and no more than 5 points total. I'll talk to you in just a minute about how I want you to respond to that. But there are some rules that I want you to be aware of that I consider to be no excuse mistakes. First of all, and the MLA is not so much a no excuse mistake, but you do need to be aware of this, and this is just following directions. When you use a direct quotation, you should include the page number where those exact words can be found in parenthesis at the end of the sentence. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Okay, again. When a direct quotation is used, include the page number on which those exact words can be found. The page number is placed in parenthesis at the end of the sentence after closing quotation marks, if the quotation is at the end of the sentence, but before the closing period. For those of you who did this or used direct quotations, notice the way that I have responded to that, and if you have questions, please ask. Second person, the second person pronoun you is not acceptable in academic writing. For some instructors, it is an F error. That is, the instructor draws a line across the paper when you use the U and marks an F. It is considered by many to be obviously a major error. If you're not certain or if you miss using it sometimes, you can use Control F. It's a search function in Word. Let's see if we can access that now. If I do Control F, then it gives me a search function and I can tell it I want it to find you in my paper. When I do, that's what comes up, so I can go through and correct those errors. Now, Control F is a find function in a Word document. Replace it. If you're not certain how to revise and replace, that's something that we can address, but know that using you in academic writing is not acceptable. Contractions are not acceptable in academic writing. I know that some of your readings will include them, but this is a practice that you need to be aware of. It's considered to be more informal or conversational. As a rule, and there are very few hard and fast rules in grammar and mechanics, but commas and periods go inside closing quotation marks. So if there is if a comma and a period are right there next to a closing quotation mark, it is the mark of punctuation, then the closing quotation mark. When we handwrite, we can fudge a little bit, but when we type, we have to commit. There are rules about using numerals, and it depends on what style sheet you're using. MLA is one style sheet. P9F, these numbers and letters are the rules from the Hacker text. They're inside the back cover, and they're also in the tabs with explanations. The rule about numerals and words. If a number can be expressed in 2 or fewer words, 100, 500, 15, 43, you use words in MLA. If a number requires 3 or more words, numerals are acceptable. So 101, you can use numerals. There are different conventions for time and for some other things, but generally this is the rule, and you should not begin sentences with a numeral. But you can look at Rule P9F to see what the specifics are there. Now, the one thing that I ask you to do, and that I'll ask you to do officially later on, is a review exercise. And this is how I ask you to review. This one is an independent one. That is, do this on your own. First, identify the errors by rule number. That is, go through your paper that has been returned to you and look at the rule number that has been marked on your paper. You'll find those rule numbers in the inside back cover of the Hacker and Summers text. In my comments, there are initials. Those are my initials that are inserted by the program. They are not rule numbers. But you will find that I have included rule numbers when there has been a question about how you used punctuation or grammar. So you identify the rules by rule number, and then read the rule for the errors marked in your paper. You should ask yourself if you understand the rule well enough to state it in your own words. I stated the rule P9F, and let me back up. These rules are stated in my own words, but you can go to them and read them and see what they say specifically. Do you understand the rule well enough to state it in your own words? Or is there vocabulary that you need to understand? If so, you need to define those words. If it's pronoun antecedent agreement, you need to know what agreement and antecedent are. You need to know what number and gender are. Look at the rules to see. Check the error marked on the paper to see if you understand why it was marked and how to correct it. If you don't understand those things, after you've read the rule, reviewed it, looked at your paper, ask me for assistance. Later, this type of assignment will be required. However, if you begin to review the rules and make corrections now, you'll have fewer errors to address when the review exercise is required. Again, grammar and mechanics errors, typically 10 points and 3 to 5 points. When you do a review exercise, you are able to reclaim half of those points for an assignment. So it's to your advantage to review the rules now to determine what you're doing wrong. This is the best way to improve your ability to apply the rules. Now, if you will, look again to the left to the rubric and formatting. One of the assignments that you had was to submit an MLA document for review. These items, beginning with formatting and grammar and mechanics, these things are expected. Other parts of the assignment were new, but you're expected to format your document using the standards set up by MLA. There are instructions in Syllabus Plus. There are instructions in the Hacker text, and you'll be able to find instructions online as well about how to set a document up. If you're still having problems, please ask me, and I'll help you walk through what you need to walk through. But I think the instructions are fairly clear about how to do the process, how to go through the process. One question that evidently is an issue is about a header. In order to insert a header, the instructions tell you this, but you double click at the top of the page and the header appears. And then you can use this function to insert a page number, or you can use this function, insert, and then it tells you you can insert a page number. That's how you put that information in the header. If you're at the home screen for paragraph, when you go to paragraphing, you need to make sure that the spacing here is set to 0 and your spacing should be set to double when it is in MLA formatting. Make sure that you wait until after you have inserted your name, identifying information at the top before you use the function to insert the, before you use this function to automatically indent the first line. If you have questions, please ask. I hope that the revisions that I made to the course shell are helpful. Please go back and review the orientation video. If you're having trouble navigating the course, that seems to be one of the issues. Please send me messages through course messages, and I hope that this helps you make the corrections that you need to make so that your next summary assignment will be one that is an A+. Thanks.